So when trying to debug our application, we have to think very logically. And I can see three possible problems with this scenario. Number one is our XPath identifier is broken, and therefore this method right here does not return the appropriate result. Number two is that this method is actually broken. Wait until element is displayed. Therefore, it returns an improper result. And possible problem number three is something else that we just do not see right now. So let's try and resolve each of those problems one by one to narrow it down. So what I'm going to do is bring up our Firefox, and using this identifier right here, you guys can see that it identifies this edit profile title. So to me, that says that this identifier works. Okay, so it is not the identifier. I'm sure of that because it's working right here in Firebug, and so therefore that can't be it. The next step to do is to find out whether this is the method that may actually be broken. And which brings me to a next good point, in that we need to have unit tests for our automation framework. That's right. We need to write tests for our tests. Why? Because remember, we wrote a bunch of classes and methods that do things without actually validating whether they're working or not. We validate by running the code, but wouldn't it be great if we could validate it by running tests? So we should not be hypocrites and not write tests for our own code, considering we're QAs. We actually want tests for our code because it is methods and other methods and classes, and therefore we need tests, and we need to follow the standard software development best practices because it is code that is being written here. Therefore, what I'm going to do is open up our Solution Explorer, and just like this QTP tests project, I'm going to create another unit test project. Add new project. I already have it selected here in Visual C# test unit test project, and I am going to name it framework tests because they test my framework. They're going to test my framework project. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. That's going to be created, and now we have our test class here. The test class that we want to use for testing is our browser, right? Browser tests. Excellent. Yep. So this public class is going to be browser tests. Browser tests. Okay. And now we need a method that's going to test our code. Now, the way I like to name my tests is following the BDD principle. You guys may like something else, but I found it to be the most helpful for me with my automation testing. So that's doing something like given a valid element, one element is visible, and then our method that we want to test is that element is displayed, right? Yes, we can test this one as well, but this one really just circles through and waits for an element, and this one actually does the logic of checking whether the element is displayed or not. So I'm going to grab that and go back to our unit test and put that in here. Element is displayed, finds element. So does this test make sense to you guys? Given a valid element, when element is visible, element is displayed, finds element, right? So when all those conditions are met, element is displayed, finds element. That is our test.